Hello, BookTube. It's Friday late morning, and I thought I'd weigh in with this tag, and I use quotation marks tag. It has Steve read it because it's not exactly a tag, but in a sense it is. Uh, and I didn't wasn't on BookTube when Steve did it last year. I've been watching a few of the videos that are in my feed of people that I follow that have put it, and most recent that I saw was Todd at Todd's Bursting Bookcase, and Steve did a reply to that, and I thought, well, I'll weigh in and see what we get, and I could have easily chosen ones that probably Steve hasn't read for various reasons. Like I could have did biography, and I could probably pick eight sort of silent film biographies or something like that that are quite unlikely that he would have read them. So I won't do that. I could, do some sort of literary history stuff that I have behind here that are small press or smaller press, and were limited, and things like that, or transport that I have over here, which is sort of railroads, canals, roads, the Roman roads or something like that, a book, or about farm wagons and things like that. Like, yeah, well, but I got eight. I've got a pile of eight books here. They're all within sort of Steve's reading genres, I should say, and publishers that he's familiar with and he's talked about before. And there's some biographies as well, so that's his favorite. But there are a few curveballs there, or for those uh, of the cricket variety, a few googlies. And I think we start with one. The Man Who Found the Money, John Stuart Kennedy and the Financing of the Western Railroads, Saul, Engelberg, and Leonard Bushkoff. It's a Michigan State University press, so it's American publication, so not too far away from Steve. That is 1996, and let's just read a little here from the flap. During the mid-19th century, the desire to explore the western United States was facilitated by the expansion of railroads. They sparked the interest of Americans as eastern seaports were linked first to the Midwest and finally to the Pacific. The Man Who Found the Money is a critical biography of John Stuart Kennedy, an Eastern banker whose contributions to railroad development are often left unmentioned in the writing of American railroad history. Now, as I mentioned, like I could do, some British railroads and stuff like this, but the reason why I chose this was it reminded me, Steve showed up a proof copy. I'm not sure if he showed the final one, but it's sort of a history of the U.S. Postal Service. And it sounded really, really cool. And I thought this sort of Postal Service, you know, just a little interesting, as Jason Harrigan would say, a key. No, Steve calls it keyhole history. Jason calls it. I forget now. Something about a door. Anyway, my brain's not working well. Now, here's a bit of another googly, but it's a biography and it's recent, and it's by a publisher that he might very well have got as a review copy. So I'm not hiding it, and it's to me it's a 50-50 gamble here. I read this earlier this year, before I went into the hospital. It's Wild Bill Wellman, Hollywood Rebel, by William Wellman Jr. It's published by Pantheon Books of New York and 2015. And William B. Wellman was a Hollywood director, and this is written by his son. So let's just read the first paragraph or so here. The extraordinary life, the first of the legendary, under-celebrated Hollywood directors, known in his day as Wild Bill, and he was, Wellman, whose 82 movies, 6 of them uncredited, many of them iconic, many of them sharp, cold, brutal, others poetic, moving, all of them a lesson in close-up art. Ranged from adventure and gangster pictures to comedies, aviation, romances, westerns, and searing social dramas. Among his iconic pictures, a pioneering World War I epic, Wings, winner of the first Academy Award for Best Picture, Public Enemy, the toughest gangster picture of them all, Nothing Sacred, the original A Star is Born, Beggars of Life, The Call of the Wild, The Oxbow Incident, Battleground, and The High and the Mighty. And David O. Selznick called him one of the motion picture's greatest craftsmen. So, William B. Wellman, a Hollywood rebel. Okay, so biography. And here's another one that's, anyway, let's just show it. The Invention of Murder. How the Victorians revealed, let's start at it again. The Invention of Murder. How the Victorians reveled in death and detection and created modern crime, by Judith Flanders. I really enjoy her writing. This is Harper Press, 2011. And yeah, it's exactly what it says on the tin, basically. Let me see. Let's just read a little bit here. Yeah, I'll just skip down. I think this will be better to read this paragraph. Over the course of the 19th century, murder, a rarity in life, became ubiquitous, transformed into novels, into broadsheets and ballads, and theater and melodrama and opera, even into puppet shows and performing dog acts. Detective fiction and the new police force developed in parallel, each imitating the other. The founders of Scotland Yard gave rise to Dickens' Inspector Bucket, the first fictional police detective, who in turn influenced Sherlock Holmes and ultimately even P.D. James and Patricia Cornwell. In this meticulously researched and compellingly written exploration of a century of murder, Judith Flanders explores some of the most gripping and gruesome cases, both famous and obscure, from Greenacre, who transported his dismembered fiancée around London by omnibus, to Burke and Hare's body business in Edinburgh. From the tragedy of orphans left to die of neglect in baby farms, to Eleanor Percy, who murdered her lover's wife and child only for the lover to sell his mustache to Madame Tussauds. So yeah, so there we go. Again, by the way, let's just continue here. It's an older book, so I think it's about the oldest one that I got here. It's The Fear of Books by Holbrook Jackson. It was published in 1932. It's Charles Scribner's Sons, and it's basically exactly what it is. It's a history of the fear of books, and we've got just how books have been feared, destroyed, and throughout history. So yeah. Holbrook Jackson did the Bibliomania, and a bunch of other stuff. I've got quite a few of this. Now we go to another biography that I hope I'm not just giving these away to Steve, but here we go. Raoul Vollenberg. It's the heroic life of the man who saved thousands of Hungarian Jews from the Holocaust, by Ingrid Carlberg, with an introduction by Kofi Annan. And it is a translation. It's Mackelhaus, it's Quercus Press. Trying to find the date here. 2015. 2012 and 2015 it says, so maybe the translation was 2015. Translated from Swedish by Ebba Segerberg. And I'll just read a little of the flap here. Raoul Vollenberg is one of the Second World War's greatest heroes. His courageous actions in Budapest at the height of the Holocaust saved countless lives and ultimately cost his own. In the spring of 1944, during a 7-week period, more than 400,000 Hungarian Jews were deported to certain death, most of them to Auschwitz. Up to 250,000 Jews remained in Budapest, threatened with the same fate. Wallenberg, descendant of a Swedish banking dynasty and Sweden's special envoy, displayed astonishing bravery and ingenuity to try to save them, not least in the dark and bloody final months of 1944. Created a system of protective passports and sheltered thousands of Jews in special houses in the international ghetto, working with a cohort of equally remarkable collaborators. He used a combination of guile, force, and breathtaking chutzpah to fend off the depredations of the German and Hungarian Nazis. So another biography. Okay, so I think I got 8. Yeah, 8. Sorry, I thought I might have had more than 8. Zulu Warriors, The Battle for the South African Frontier by John Laband. Yale University Press. 2014. And just brief here on the flap is the Anglo Zulu War, the most famous of Britain's late 19th century campaigns of colonial conquest, was not fought in isolation. Along with the 2 Anglo Petty Wars, the 9th Cape Frontier War, and the Northern Border War, it was won in a brutal series of interconnected and overlapping wars, which the British waged between 1877 and 1879 to crush and disarm the remaining independent black states in South Africa. So, yeah, it's Yale University Press, as I say, 2014. Another biography. So, Lord Esher, a political biography by Peter Fraser. This is Pen and Sword, their politics sort of subdivision. First published in the UK in 1973. This is republished by Pen and Sword Politics in 2013. And just here, although wielding huge influence in late Victorian and Edwardian political life, Reginald Beloy Brett, the second Lord Esher, was an enigma to his contemporaries and still remains a puzzle to historians. This definitive biography throws fascinating light on a man whose influence was pervasive and many thought unconstitutional and sinister. At the heart of the British and imperial political affairs for several decades, Esher sat in both houses of Parliament, was a high-ranking civil servant and friend and confidant and advisor to 3 sovereigns and 4 prime ministers of differing political hues, and yet refused high office offered by both liberals and conservatives. Yet his behind-the-scenes influence through the range of friends in high places gave him unmatched, some thought, undemocratic power. So there we go. And last but not least is Cheek by Jowl, A History of Neighbours. And that's by Emily Cockayne. And it's The Bodley Head, 2012. And it sort of is exactly what it says. But it's neighbors can enrich or ruin our lives. They facilitate and worry us in equal measure. Soap operas watched by millions play with every lurid permutation of relationships in fictional neighborhoods. One is even called Neighbours. Disputes over gigantic Lelandu and Lelandi. Not sure what that is, sorry. But it's anyways, in its fascinating social history, Emily Cockayne traces the story of the British neighbour through 9 centuries spanning medieval, Tudor, and Victorian periods, 2 world wars, and up to today's modern virtual world. Cheek by Jowl brilliantly reveals how neighbour relations have changed over time and maps the complex emotional, sexual, and economic threads of association between neighbours. So there we go. Has Steve read it? I'll try to list the books down below. There's no order to these, so I'll probably just go with the pile here. Thanks a lot, BookTube. I'll see you this evening for a Friday Reads. Take care.